Good day, guys. I welcome you to another session of the free class hosted by CF Trading Hub. And in this session, we will be talking about breaker blocks. So, breaker blocks, just like the name implies, breaker blocks. So, breaker blocks are just a broken other block is just a breaker block. That's just it. Nothing much about it. So, let me just pull this up. So, by now, you all understand the concept of other blocks already. So, let's just say these out. This is another block over here. Yeah, let's say there's another block over there. Now we have another block. Let's say the rectangle value right here. Okay, let me just stick to this. Now these are other block over here. Now the normal expectation, the regular expectation is to see what a pull back into the particular other block, then what mitigate it and what sponsor the next upside. Now in this case scenario, we want to show what we see a break of that particular other block with what with displacement, with fair value gaps. With displacement, which means what fair value gaps. No, after saying that, what happens? We want to see a test back into this now what so continue what so continue down then. So basically what we can talk about here. Whenever you see whenever you want to see what was it called? A breaker block, you want to see what? Now this is a bullish order block initially. Then we saw a what? There's a break of that particular bullish order block. Okay. There's a break of that particular bullish order block. There's a break of that particular bullish order block. And after the break of that particular bullish order block, with displacement, that's the key. With displacement, we want to see displacement from what? We'll see before another block turns into a valid breaker block. We want to see what? We want to see displacement. So displacement what makes it valid. But when you see the break of that particular other block and you see what? A shallow break of it, that's not valid as a breaker block. Now, the main thing we want to know after the break of that particular other block is this. We want to see what it tests back into that particular other block. Now it has turned to what? It has turned to a breaker block, not another block anymore. Though it was initially another block, broken by what displacement and what turned into what? A breaker block. And you want to see what? We want to see after mitigation, we want to see it respecting what's opposite side of what it should have been before. Now, other block just mean what? Breaker blocks just mean an other block flipping roles. Now, this is a bullish order block. The market was actually supposed to test it and what? Sponsor buy side delivery. The moment it got broken by displacement and got tested as opposite side, it what? It sponsors what? Sell side delivery instead of what? Buy side delivery. So the role has been flipped. The moment the displacement happens and the break of structure, the displacement happens and broke what? Broke the broke the what? The other block. It's flipped role into what? From a bullish order block to what? To a bearish block. So instead of coming here and respecting it as a bullish block, it's flipped role the moment displacement broke through it and what? And flipped it into a what? A bearish block. So that is just it about what? About bear blocks, bearish blocks or breaker blocks. Yeah, that is it about breaker blocks. So so on just opposite side of it when you are looking for what? The opposite trend. So it's all what and opposite. So let's just go for some examples over here. No, this is a valid bearish block. This is a valid breaker block, sorry. Not a bearish block. This is a valid breaker block. Initially, this was what? This was another block before, initially. Yeah, it was another block initially. You can see here is a break of structure over here. Here is a block that sponsored what? The break of structure. The market reversal is supposed to come here. Expect it the same. The regular way we know, the market was actually expected to come here and go off, right? So, what do you see happening? Instead of coming here and getting it, price broke through it. Now, what do you want to see? It is very, very key to actually see this. You want to see what? Displacement. You can see. Imagine this. Imagine this. Sorry, once again. Imagine this. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that kind of fight with this kind of five action. What do you see? You see what? Displacement over here. You can see how the candle is painted. It's forced toward the downside. But you see, what do you see here? You see a shallow movement. Just like you're looking at this price action over here. See this price action over here? There's displacement in that price action over there to what? To something like this. So you get the gist of it. So that was it over there. So there was what? There was displacement, not a shallow movement. This is also a shallow movement over there. So see this shallow movement over there. So when you see shallow movements breaking what? Breaking through blocks, breaking through another block, that is not valid as what? As a breaker block. But when you see what? When you see displacements breaking through what? Breaking through another block, that is what? That is valid as what? As a breaker block. So over here you can see what? You can see price actually broke through this particular other block with what? With displacement. So without displacement, that is confirmed as what? As a breaker block. So what happened next? You can see price is what? Price came through it, came here like this, respected that particular block as what? Instead of being a bullish other block before, the role has been flipped to what? To a bearish block. So price came through it there, respected it and what? And started setting up. So just the same way you trade another block, you do what? Do your sell position, you pick your sell position to your entry at the beginning of what? The breaker block. Your stop loss. Actually, for stop loss in this kind of scenario, you do what? You play your stop loss slightly above your what? Slightly above your local block over here like this. And you what? The target can be this particular low. Hidden target is what? Is our professionalism sometimes and just about what we want sometimes. So that's the target over there. There's another target over here. What you pick your next lows as a what? As a target. So you can see what price did over here. Price actually what? Hit our target over here, and that's it about that. That's a valid example of what of a breaker block, and this is a 4.52 hour setup. So very, very valid. Another block initially that broke rate with this movement turned into a breaker block. Price tested it and what? Ranking for objectives. So that's it about breaker block. So let me call my example. I'm not sure I'll be able to look for on my example. Okay, let's just go through one example. This is actually more of the range market. But that was actually a very, very, very valid example. So that is the kind of thing you look for on your charts to actually see an example of a bearish breaker block or of a breaker block. So that is a bearish breaker block example. The initial textbook example I actually explained initially was a bearish example, was a bullish example. The chart explanation was a what? A bearish example. So I then should actually be able to get whatever you need from the explanations I've made. But let's look for one more example over here. So these are very, very, very disturbing price actions over here. I think my network issues are coming up again. So let's just go to an hourly time thing. The price action over here is very, very disturbing. Okay. You can see the price action is very, very sloppy. Upside, downside, upside, downside, upside, very, very disturbing. So there's nothing meaningful to pick out here. But instead, these are valid examples of what? Of other blocks over here. This is another block over here. Over here. Yeah, that's another block over there. Though you could have refined it to actually what? To actually get more stop loss. But let's look for a breaker block over there. We'll actually see one over there, I think. Okay, this is what we are looking for. So what do you see over here? This is a valid block over here. A valid what? A valid bearish block over here. Let me clean this bigger one off so you can see it better. So that was a valid what? A valid what? Bearish block over there. This is a tiny break of structure at this low. There's a tiny break of structure at this low. But instead of the markets coming there, respecting that particular bearish block, what do you see happening? It's broke through it. And yeah, this actually what? There's actually displacement over here. You know, when you go into a much lesser time frame, here's a 15-minute time frame. When you go into something like a 5-minute time frame, you see what? You see a good displacement over there. So naturally pick what? Pick that as a bearish block, as a breaker block. Flipped from what? From a bearish order block to what? To now a bullish what? A bullish breaker block. So and as usual, use your entry right at the beginning of your block over here. And your stop loss what? Slightly below it. So if I want to fix my stop loss in actually something like this, I could have done what? I could have placed it at this particular low over here. You know, depends on what? On the trend and time frame and daily hunts. If I go to something like a 5-minute time frame, I could have what? Use a better stop loss placement over here. And after that, I will place my objective at this what? At this particular eye. So and that's just that about it. You can just what? Go into your chart and look for better examples and practice it. If you have any questions, you can always reach me into what? In the comments section of the chat box of the group chat. So I'll be there to answer your questions. So that's all about breaker blocks. You understand the concept? Good look for more examples. And until next class, stay safe.